jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's the jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Welcome to an absolutely gorgeous afternoon in the Windy City.
Help! Back up!
Sir, I'm gonna look at your leg.
What is that?
The visual presentation indicates flesh-eating bacteria.
Man down, unknown causes. 45 South Fairfield, apartment 12.
Did your call to say 45 South Fairfield?
Apartment 12. We just got one for apartment 10.
If this is an outbreak, we're going to be playing catch-up.
We're dealing with something we've never encountered before.
I've called the CDC.
All of our victims have come from this apartment building.
They got a blue pickup truck 2 blocks away from the apartment, right in our time frame.
This is no outbreak. It's an act of terrorism.
It was arson. He wanted the lab to burn.
He's covering his tracks.
There's someone out there with weaponized bacteria.
Oh my God. He's been saying that there's going to be some sort of apocalyptic event in Chicago. I need a perimeter set up at Chicago Med.
She collapsed on me.
Is that her blood? Did you get any in your mouth, your eyes, any cuts or breaks in your skin?
All right. Welcome back to the show. So, joining me is FanSided's and Precinct TV blogger Alexandria Ingham. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. So, we just decided to kind of chat about the One Chicago franchise. That is the Chicago PD Fire-Med-Justice franchise that is also part of the FBI and Law and Order universe. I know, it's complicated, guys, but it is. So we're just going to dissect whether or not, the merit on each of them, if any, and why are people binge watching it, finding it easier to get into in an already kind of tired formula, And, well, what is it about it that's going to make us just keep just flipping on the TV or making sure we set the machine to record as we speak? Chicago Fire's in its 10th season. Chicago PD is in its 9th season, and Chicago Med is in its 7th season. So, and we'll talk about the FBI's another day. But so Alexandria, what got you kind of going on these? Were you already kind of into mystery, whodunit, action-packed cops and robbers type stuff, or?
Yeah, I've grown up with the procedurals thanks to my parents. We had CSI on all the time.
Nice.
And then NCIS as well. So I ended up growing up with the procedural format, and just then, every time something new comes on, it's like, oh, I wonder if they're going to change the format or if they're going to just stick with the tried and true method.
I know what you mean. And I was no exception. My parents were the same way. Is like they casually see part of Law and Order CSI, but my grandmother, she was like the queen. Like she was my mentor. My late grandmother. She used to be a English teacher and everything. So she kind of not only helped me find my voice, but like when we were just done studying, like we were gonna always see part of a NCIS kind of thing, or even Bones, just
Yeah.
she was just all into, it could be serious but very intricate and very well characterized, like Prime Suspect, or it could be something even more just layered but just kind of funny, like a Murder, She Wrote. And so I got that shtick instantly, and I found that I don't even respond all that well to action or horror when it's in written form. I just like, it's just dead inside. I don't react to it, but I react instantly to, say, a very fascinating sci-fi novel or a very just nail biter of a suspense novel. And so it's like, I think I was just born ready for that. I was just always seeing some kind of noir from like the 40s on Turner Classic Movies. I was always instantly in love with just gangster movies and just seeing the good ones that actually characterized it well, not just, just a good actor playing a scumbag. I wanted to actually see a pretty cool just formula that hadn't really been done to death, that wasn't, again, like you say, Dragnet or The Godfather for the billionth time. So I'm with you there. Is like, and I mean, these franchises just kind of came on at just the perfect time. I've even gone through, as we speak, all of Homicide. So, and I instantly saw why it inspired other stuff like The Wire and
Yeah,
The Shield. And unfortunately, it's just not easy to advertise either. Like, you got to get everyone's attention, even if they think it might be formulaic. Like we were talking about other stuff, is like The Rookie is basically just a excuse for comedy, and that's why everyone tunes in, because they like the cast. And then we got Prodigal Son, which is kind of a reverse Dexter, Lie to Me,
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm really surprised at how just about everyone has seen Justified or Longmire or wanted to get into it, because it's like one of them was just kind of showing a lot of backwoods Kentucky type crime gangs, years before we were seeing that white supremacy was still not dead, a lot of neo-Nazi crime gangs out there. And then Longmire's is showing a lot of just kind of conflict of interest districts that kind of deal with Native American type murders and rapes. So it's like, it is pretty much all about the setting. It's not just, and I would get into arguments even with pals. They would be like, "Oh, I stopped watching it when that one actor left." I'm like, they weren't even the star of the show. They were just the comic relief, or the guy who was gonna die, or the funny douche, So, yeah.
I think it also helps that it's really easy to watch on the reruns. Like if you're just looking for something to put on in the background,
yeah,
it's there, and you don't have to pay really close attention to the actual storyline that's going on. You can usually tell who did it within the first 2 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, with some of them.
So it's just there to just keep you entertained.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually kind of why I got into The Shield and The Closer, both, because like, even Criminal Minds for that matter, because it's like, it is like The Shield wasn't even about who done it. It was about who's going, so and so started a gang war. So how is this crooked officer going to do? Are they going to steal from them or make it worse? How is everything going to hit the fan? And The Closer was pretty much, who did it, but why did they do it? And how are they going to close this case, since that's their name, The Closer? I will close it at the end of the episode. There won't be a part, unless we have a to be continued episode. we pull a Star Trek next week. Oh, we're not going to do that. But yeah, it is comfort food, and TNT and USA, it just fills half their schedule with half of these. They're just like, it's easy ratings.
I mean, you mentioned Criminal Minds. That was another one that I watched with my parents, and it was just always that thing of, why are they doing it, and really getting into the psychology of why these people do things.
It really is even hard to even like put in a specific genre, because there's a lot of dark comedy littered throughout and references to other serial killer movies. But then there's a lot of episodes like, that's the horror episode, that's the mystery episode, that's the action-packed Dog Day Afternoon type, meets 7 episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you might even remember older 90s shows. There's this one called Profiler, but yeah, on Criminal Minds, they're like Profiler 2.0, where they're profiling each other. Like, are you ready for this? I don't believe you. Take the night off. I got it. I don't have a life. You do have a life. You go be with the baby and the kid.
Yeah, you couldn't lie to each other in that one. They all
No, not at all. It's amazing. Like, at least 3 of them were able to have fun, and the other guys, we just were fascinated by how are they going to self-destruct their life now. Their sorrow is our enjoyment.
You know, I think that's part of what it is. Their sorrow is our enjoyment. We know that our lives can never be that bad. Unless we turn out to be one of the victims.
Oh, totally. And it really gets you going with that's a good point. It does kind of get you settled in and ready for the next mystery and reveal, because there's so many other shows where it's just like, I think CSI inspired so many other shows, just have fancy electronic music playing and, you know, a fancy dissection, but forget everything about CSI in terms of the characters. I mean, even the spin-offs just weren't as good at that as the original batch. But anyway, enough about that. So which of these did you watch first of these Chicago shows?
Fire. So, I mean,
Okay,
that was the
so
first one that came out as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So this was the third one, maybe technically fourth, I got into. But anyway, yeah, I totally know what you mean. Where it's just like, yeah, I mean, this every other show about a firefighters had either kind of been something cheesy, kind of like an old Emergency rerun, or I mean, there was Rescue Me, but that was just kind of more of a drama with, you know, firefighters in the background.
Yeah.
And this kind of had an interesting kind of dilemma of, we're going to show them doing all, well, I take it back. There was Third Watch, but that was more paramedics, you know?
Well, I used to watch, so when I grew up in the UK, and I used to watch, I think this show's called London's Burning. So that was all,
nice. Okay.
all firefighters.
That went on for like 12 seasons. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even, you know what? I can't even remember the details of all the plot. I was that young that I just remember sitting down. It was like the Saturday night thing to do or something in the UK. You sat down and watched London's Burning and then Casualty. So that got me into the firefighters, the paramedics, the doctors, everything like that.
Oh, totally. That's a good point. Like, there have been a few other just like foreign shows that kind of is like the characters take a side step and we'll, you know, flush them out when we really need to.
Yeah.
So I guess what really appeals about this one, like, other than just how they handled their firefighter work unions, you know, and it was just so funny how I'd seen PD first, and it's like, man, Voight was even more unlikable in this versus that. He's a bastard. What the fuck? And harassing firefighters.
I've never been able to like Voight at all. Even now, even though that he's like lightened up a little bit, I'm still just like, I remember what you were. I remember.
Yeah, he can't change what he is, and shame on him if he's proud in any way of what he is. Because yeah, it's just like, and I see some people praising him. I'm like, you guys, I can't tell which of you are Nazis and which one of you are just, you're accepting it in a fictional way. Because it's just like, he still did a lot of shit wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. Where it's just like, well, I consider him a villain. I mean, I don't know.
He's not even an anti-hero. He's just.
That's my thought exactly too. Is like, well, because, you know, he doesn't stay true to his word or anything, and, you know, at least Vic on The Shield, which, fun fact, there are a lot of actors on all of these from that show, and there's even some of the same cinematographers, which is why I think it works as well. They give you that voyeuristic where I'm looking at a conversation I shouldn't be watching. And I mean, Matt Olmstead, who had written for NYPD Blue, also wrote for a lot of these, and I think he did a good job of just kind of characterizing just the internal affairs side, but even just going into how a more plausible way in which you can kind of buy vice cops getting lost in their actual vices. And yes, like you say, he's beyond an anti-hero, and you can do villain, but it's like a villain assumes that they're doing an act of terrorism or anything. Is like, well, he's terrorizing people, but often it's to spook a bunch of other guys who are warring gangs, and then he gets even out of that, and he puts away other far worse police superiors behind bars. But it's like, well, so basically it takes a piece of trash to take out all the other bigger steaming piles. Yeah. But here's the thing. Yeah, Vic on the Shield, he was much like Tony Soprano, where he was a thug. He knew what he was, and he was proud of it, and he didn't give a fuck, So he kept extorting gang members and stealing Armenian money, and the show instantly just gave you that idea. It's like, well, I can't wait to see if he gets caught or not. It's fun. It was a heist show. Got Al Capone with a badge. They said it best themselves. And it's like, Voight, he may not be Al Capone, but he's still scum. So it's just like, okay, well, and it's just so funny how in later episodes they introduce us to Casey, how he's kind of running with the political unions, Hothead Kelly. And see, here's the other thing. Kelly's interesting because he, is a very brave firefighter, but he also, he doesn't try and hide behind any kind of favoritism or anything. He's a lieutenant, and if he knows that he's just gonna take time off work to get laid or anything, he fesses up to it. He doesn't try and hide it. That's what's different than him and some of the other hotheads who just love the sound of their voice. And it's just like, it's just so funny how people like Otis and what is his other name? He's such a wacky guy.
Cruz?
Cruz and like some of the other guys, the character Herman plays, I think that is his actual name. Yeah, it's like they're forming their own restaurant. Yeah, it's just like I think it works better there than like on other shows like SWAT, where it's just like they got nothing better to do. Like the new version of SWAT is basically, it's by the same guys that did Nash Bridges, so it's going for that same type of over the top silliness. I mean, basically on all these Chicago shows, like everybody exits stage right by either committing suicide, getting fired, dying obviously, or just getting demoted. It's like, or better yet, they just move to another precinct. They're just like, yeah, I'm done with you guys. I do like though how they all cross over. Like it makes sense for one of the labor union reps, Mouch, to be engaged to the police sergeant Trudy. I thought that was cool. I totally forgot about that, how he would show up every once in a while. I was like, oh, that's right, they are married.
I do like how every now and again you'll see like Burgess or Atwater or someone just pop up in the middle of fire because they're dealing with something that crosses over with the police. And we do see
it's
how
a small town.
well, not just that, but they do work together, and you're going to end up responding to calls that you run into people
Totally. And when they got to go to the hospital, it makes sense to go to the med hospital, and one of the better doctors actually greets them as opposed to the ones that are, melodrama on the wall.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did think it was awesome to make the arrogant Dr. Halstead on Med be related to Detective Halstead. It wasn't just them reusing names. It's like, no, they're brothers. And you can understand why they're both arrogant as time goes on, because they both got an alcoholic, shithead dad who basically has disowned them and then said, no, I don't mean it, but I got nothing nice to say. Fuck you. Yeah, on Fire, they do a good job of really using practical effects, not cheesy CGI like, a Jerry Bruckheimer production would probably do.
Yeah,
who got burned this week? They don't do that shit. they're not running away like in slow motion, like everything had to kind of do in the 90s where you're like, good God, it doesn't work that way. It also kind of blew my mind how a Chicago Justice, some of those characters started out on here. But
yeah.
Did you ever see any of that one?
I was really salty that I'm still salty that's got cancelled.
I am too, and I'm just glad that Peter Stone got to continue, since he was actually, the son of Ben Stone, Michael Moriarty's character, and they got to continue his arc for like 3 seasons on SV Law and Order Special Victims Unit. But I'm just like, it was cool to see Chief Investigator Dawson on there, because he's actually, his sister Gabe works for Chicago Fire, and I don't like how they wrote him off on PD, but I understand it. They did insist that he was struggling with opioids addiction and other shit. So I was like, okay, I can buy that.
And there have been a few characters written out of all shows, all 3 or 4, all the shows that I have questioned a lot. And, I don't agree with some of the creative decisions.
I agree. Well, so let's go to the most controversial one. Let's go with Detective Lindsay. I know many stopped watching after season 4 because of
was that one. I don't think that was a creative decision, though. I think that was
Sophia Bush
decision, and I completely stand behind her decision.
Yeah, I was really depressed when I heard that Jason Bigg was getting a little too into character and kind of just making everyone uncomfortable, and he had to be sent to anger rehab.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then she's having to deny, I don't have an issue with them. It's like, well, guys, what's the matter? You have the right to decide, your next stage of your career. She's at the second stage of her career. She doesn't want to do TV anymore. She wants to do more movies. So
I don't know. I'm looking forward to Good Sam that she's in with Jason Isaacs. That's coming to CBS.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of
that. In the mid-season, January, I think.
Well, I will keep an eye out for that. I was okay with her kind of just taking off already, because I was just so sick to death of her drug-addicted mother. Is like, but see, that's the other problem too. It's not that I dislike the main character or anything, it's that I don't like the baggage that they carry. So it's just like, but don't get me wrong, PD doesn't have anything that I would want to skip compared to, well, we're going to get to Med soon, but so I think PD stands out just because, like many of the better crime shows, it's really good at having there be multiple twists to all the storylines without feeling overplotted or just run of the mill. Like, okay, at the end of the day, they're going to do the usual, I run to your rights now, confess. No, they don't do shit like that too much. It's more, it's like atypical kind of undercover or everything from petty thefts to trafficking raiding.
It started that way. I think it's starting to get a little bit run of the mill in the more recent seasons.
Yeah, because they don't have as many characters now, so now it's like it's gone back to what it was basically in the middle, where it's like, now will Voight get caught? And this is like, I really took a liking to Haley Upton, but she's also has some skeletons in her closet. This is like, she murdered a guy, and then she briefly worked on one of the FBI shows for like an episode, and then came back after helping them. It's like, well,
yeah, her storyline this season is not adding up. I don't get why she's so nervous about getting caught, considering the backstory they've already created for her. She can handle herself under pressure. So why is she struggling so much now?
I think because when someone is leaning over your shoulder, keeping an extra eye on you, it's easy to kind of break, and it's hard to lie. And see, I don't know. I think it's interesting that Detective Halstead is kind of having to be the good cop when, he's gone along with a lot of Voight's technically illegal actions before. So I like how they gave individual episodes each to Ruzek and Atwater. Atwater is always basically solving some crime that's restricted to hood areas, and Ruzek is almost always encountering some shithead from his past who's even worse now than they were then. So I'm glad that they're done with all him and his he and Kim had some melodrama going back and forth. I'm just glad they dumped that. That was getting old after 2 episodes. But yeah, no, I think Upton is either going to end up snitching on Voight, and Voight's going to decide if he wants to be, again, a hypocrite and get someone killed, or find a lie to cover up the other millions of lies he's told. But personally, I think the only way the show can actually end is if he does actually get fired or stripped of his badge. I think that's the only way you'll be able to end it.
Yeah, something's going to happen for everything to be disbanded. Because I think without him, I think they would end up disbanding intelligence.
They got to have some kind of shutdown, and that's how it ends. This is season 9. I think season 10 is a good run for any kind of show.
Yeah, because I mean that's confirmed. We already know season 10 is happening. It would be a good one just to end it on a nice round number.
Yeah. Now we're even. That'd be even funny if that's the final line that they use. Now we're even, Voight. Now you're gonna get raped in prison. So I guess let's head back to Fire-P.D and then we'll talk about Med. But what do you also kind of dig about how the personal lives are detailed that keeps this from being a run-of-the-mill soap opera?
I love every time Herman's family turns up.
Yeah, he shows the example of the awkward, yet he wants to be the life of the party, and it's just so funny how he just kind of reminds me of when I did improv in college. It's like, even if someone says a line that doesn't make any sense, you acknowledge it. You keep the skit going. You don't negate.
Yeah.
And it's like, he is terrible at giving a toast, and yet everyone just loves the sheer effort and amount of time and prep he put into it, and they're just like, we'll school you later, but yeah, sure, I guess we'll join in the parade. The shenanigans. It is kind of ironic how their restaurant suffers so much at first. It is getting kicked by a total corporate one that's like hosting a bunch of sports bar games. They almost get into a lawsuit with a conflict of interest, and then that one gets actually destroyed in a fire. And then it's just so funny, they don't have the competition, but they also don't have the crowd at the same time. It's like, man, just can't win.
I like how it's was it Al Capone being shot outside or something, and that's what brought the crowd in? Something. It was some sort of link to history and the Chicago crime mob, and
that one loan shark, and then they almost had to fault on it. The bank almost seizes it, so that was a cool ticking clock rhythm that they had to get out of. I kind of dug. So you might know Lauren German now on Lucifer as Shay. Monica and Raymond as Gabe Dawson. They're both. I like their whole paramedic dilemma, although Shay does kind of go off the deep end where you're just like, I can't. But I like how they actually. It almost looked like she was about to commit suicide in one episode. She's standing over a bridge.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? It's kind of cool how Kelly ends up just kind of splitting the bill with a bunch of people, and then he just finally settles on what was it? Not Chill. It was Stella Kid. And I kind of liked how Stella has to kind of she tries oh, that's right. Who had to apologize because they had like just some, I forget who it was. It's like she had a crappy. Oh, I know who it was now. Okay, so Cara Kilmer's character Sylvie had a crappy roommate who Kelly was dating, and then to make it even worse, I really dug this storyline when she had a crappy roommate who decided to be like one of the secretaries like in the station, and she was just spreading rumors about everybody. She broke up her friendship with Stella to where she like tried to get her transferred, and she's like, whoa, what the hell? And then Kelly's like, well, you and I are done, you're a shitty person. And then it's like basically fortunately Sylvie's able to bring it to the fire chief, and I just love how the secretary it kind of reminded me of how other shows like St. Elsewhere and LA Law would kind of do all these kinds of just unprofessional workplace behavior. and someone just finally, you know, being the bureaucrat who just wipes the floor with you and just says, "Get your papers, get out of here." Yeah. I don't know. We offered you shelter and you decided I'm just gonna be a little shit. I'm just gonna be a sneak. And I love how she's like, "That's just not how it happened." I'm like, "Well, how else did it happen?" And so I've encountered plenty of sociopaths and other shitty people in the workplace before at every kind of job. We all have, but it is interesting to see it be portrayed on TV and make for a thrilling drama. This is like, so how are they going to get that person fired 3 episodes down the road?
Which would never happen in real life because they would still be around.
Still be around.
Yes,
else for the purposes of a show. But yes, in real life, there would be someone who would be there for like 5 more months or even a year before someone's finally said, "Fine, I'll review it." You know, there's always someone. And that's why I do like how the fire commissioners, played by Gary Cole, is considered to be corrupt, because like that was a good job of just showing how is like people like to do favors. It's like, well, I'm returning this money because it doesn't belong to me, and this looks like a bribe. Everyone else would probably just say, "Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll take it. I don't know what it means, but sure." I see it at a fundraiser, I'll take it. And it's like, it's a good examination of honesty, but I also like how it doesn't do the whole, we're all good old boys, we all get along. It's like, no, everybody's done a flaw. For a while, it seemed like they did the whole will they or won't they with Gabe Dawson and Casey, and I liked how they finally just said, "Okay, fine, fuck it, no more foster kids, no more all this other stuff, just end that now and have them just live together." You know? And then get back to the whole who, you know, will result in a freak accident, you know. Although I've never seen a Latino portrayal like I have with Joe Cruz. It is interesting just kind of seeing how
I love Cruz.
Yeah, he's kind of more of an Americanized Latino, where he's escaping the hood, and then, you know, he pretty much swears it off altogether. He stops checking up on his bro as much. He's like, and then he offers shelter to his cousin, who basically never left the hood, takes everything so personally. Like Herman issues a joke to him, yakety yak, don't talk back, and he is like, "No, I'm going to shank you for that." And this is it. That lands him in prison, and Cruz is like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to even plead on getting you bailed out there. You're a shitty person. Now I understand why I left the hood."
I would say if I was going to date a guy, then it would be someone like Cruz. I'd want him because
the actor's just so flavorful with even his just his eyes. You know, it's just like you just get a sense of insecurity, as well as just it's like, I'm going to give everything my best shot.
Yeah, he's just so sweet though. He clearly wants to do the right thing, and half the time he completely fucks up and it goes completely wrong, but you can tell it's all from the goodness of his heart. This isn't him, you know, trying to get away with telling some dark lie. It's just okay, yeah, I screwed up. This is what really happened.
Yeah, he wants to find the right gal, and he can never make that work. And it's so true too. Like he, it's just so funny how he tries so hard, and it's just like they're just like, just be natural.
And then now that he's, I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to handle him being a father, because that's, you know, it's been that whole thing of he's been terrified of dying before the baby comes along, and he's had all of his PTSD, and I think they're getting past the trauma storyline now. They've not really focused on it enough for my liking. I really think that trauma should be properly portrayed on TV to give people a chance to actually speak out about it.
Yeah,
but I am looking forward to seeing how he's going to be as a dad.
Totally, because there were a few seasons where it was all basically Casey and Kelly, and now it's like, let's get back to Cruz, Herman, and all the other restaurant guys, and Sylvie. Because Sylvie kind of took a while. There's like, okay, we replaced Shay, who got killed in the line of duty, but you know, she took a while for them to figure out what to do with her character, and I didn't know if it's just the writers just needed that mark filled at first, and they slowly kind of were comfortable letting another character be part of it. I think the biggest issue is when they introduced Sylvie, they were still trying to get rid of all the other fuck ups like Jimmy, who's played by Stephen McQueen's son. And so, or not son, grandson, but it was just like, get all these other fuck ups out of there so you have less story you have to worry about, and you can get back to talking about Sylvie and Cruz and all the other guys.
I just wish for Sylvie, I really like this paramedic storyline where she's pushing for the, what's it called? Paramed or something?
Yes.
This new initiative that she wants.
This. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want them to focus on that because I am so fed up of will she, won't she with Casey. It's like, come on, women do not need a man. Can we just focus on careers sometimes?
They do a good job of showing how they're all independent, but I agree. They just can't help themselves. That is like, they gotta have some sexy time in there. And I mean, whenever Kelly starts a friendship, you just know it's going to go south, but that's kind of the fun, just seeing the shit hit the fan. But yeah, it's like all the rest is like, no, let's not.
It's like with Brett and Casey, they dragged it out that long that now, Jesse Spencer has left the show, and it's like, oh crap, we don't have time to actually do anything with this relationship we've now just put back together. We put together.
Totally.
But yeah, this is what you get for dragging it out for season after season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, fun fact, I did not know for the longest time that was the dude from House.
Oh god.
Australian actor from House, because he was so different in there, and for whatever reason I got him mixed up with Dr. Gray from Criminal Minds. I know it's not the same character, but for whatever reason I don't know, I just wasn't dialed in. I knew everyone else had basically started on some other CW shit fest and then just done the rounds doing every kind of guest spot on every other big show on cable or regular TV. I mean, so pretty much the main draw for me was I knew who Monica and Raymond, who plays Gabe Dawson, was. She was on Lie to Me and a bunch of other bit movie parts. And then I knew Chief Bowden, Eamon Walker, the British actor from Oz, Saeed, and totally different role here. And I mean, I think Sylvie's going to get some more good screen time. It's just a matter of time and when. Cruz, he's just got to come to terms with something instead of just constantly having to show up at a church and attend someone's funeral. We got to give him a good safe nest. We can't keep having it be like Finn or Vincent on SVU, where it's like their tragedy makes for fascinating drama, and yet it's like, come on, man, we gotta give them some way out, some depth of happiness where they at least have someone else caring for them, making them breakfast in bed. I did kind of like the storyline for Kelly where he had to give a organ transplant. Do you remember?
I don't remember that one.
Okay. It was around it wasn't season 7. It was more like season 6. Okay. Let's fast forward a bit. It was, way after season 4.
There's a point between season 4 and season 8 where I watched it. I just can't remember a lot of what happened.
Well, that's where it kind of became kind of more Dog Day Afternoon with firefighters, where there was like constantly, they were in the middle of a robbery and they're trying to get the robbers out. They are helping the FBI's even apprehend someone. And it's like, okay, well, I see what they're doing, but it wouldn't happen exactly that way because it is TV. But helping people who've been impaled on a bus, tornado lockdowns, even funny random geek out sessions. God, what was it? Okay. And then just a bunch of other just people trying to instigate fights. They're like, you better put up a security guard at the station. Yeah, that's right. He gave a bone marrow transplant. Remember? It was like an ex-flame. And I already knew that gal. She was briefly one of the narcs on Law and Order Organized Crime, so she's part of the Dick Wolf fan, casting as well. But it was interesting just seeing that, because it's like, for once, he actually was selfless, as opposed to all the other times where it's like they're just having to help the chief get rid of some other guy who's trying to replace them because they don't like how he runs things there. And I guess, I don't know. I looked forward to it because I like the whole measurement contest in the office type stuff, but at the same time, it's like eventually someone has to step down, just say this is too much trouble, I quit. And so I don't know. It's just,
I love how we've had season after season of them trying to get Bowden fired. The brass
Station
has been
51 is no more.
They've been trying to fire him for a ridiculous amount of time, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh yeah, we're going to promote you." Serious?
Yeah.
So we've spent all this time saying that his way of dealing with things is wrong and he can't do his job.
We're saving
and
face.
now you're saying, actually, we like the way you work.
It makes you wonder, is this like, are they just trying to save face? Did he get it just because they pretty much kicked his ass and I can admire a guy who kicks our ass, sends our guys back. Because they dealt with so many other people. I mean, how many races have they had to actually kick off the team where it's like, Jesus, you should do a background check on these guys? Because I think also Bowden wised up. He started being way more secure. He started even peeking into them, especially after he let that one guy who was pretty much harassing everyone out, where he's like, I won't endanger your name, but you're still causing trouble and rumors about us at another place, which is even worse. So yeah, I'm going to deal with you.
Yeah, it's why I'm intrigued at where they're going with this new storyline with the lieutenant. Him and Mouch are just like, why has he been floating around for so long? Something must be wrong. It's like, okay, Bowden, you need to start researching now. What's wrong with this dude?
There's so many stink eyes that they give each other. Oh man. Yeah, no, very, very true. But yeah, other than that, I think you pretty much just summed up why it kind of gels. Is just there's some very fascinating melodrama. It's not the billionth, like ER kind of show where after 5 seasons, okay, Gibbs, everyone's sleeping with each other.
Yeah, and they do keep it entertaining with all the various calls that they do. I mean, you've got at least 2 call outs an episode, and it's always something you're just like, holy fuck, does that actually happen? And usually it's yes, people are that stupid. People will put their hands into meat grinders because they're idiots.
Yeah, it's even more Hill Street Blues than even Chicago PD. Coincidental how we're talking about another show implies being in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, like, there's remember that time when Kid is being harassed by her apartment landlord, and they're like, "You're gonna have to get out of here. I'm not paying you. I default on the payment. I don't need your damn apartment." But yeah, no, like you say, the personal interactions are very intricate and very well organized compared to some of the other ones because like you say, it's like PD, it was fun to a point, and then after a while it's like, okay, we've already had so many people end up dead, transfer, and now at this point, now it's the Will Haley snitch on Voight show, and it's like, well, however season 9 goes depends on whether or not anyone sees season 10. It's like you can only be so interested from a third person perspective for so long. So I guess that leads us to Chicago Med. This was the second one I got into. The first, I had already seen parts of Fire and Med, especially when they did the infection 3-part crossover event.
Yeah,
which is so freaky.
I liked that crossover event. That was a really well done. So all the other crossover events up to that point had just been like, you could tune in for an episode and kind of figure out what was going to happen.
Yeah, they were like that. They were like the SVU
whereas this infection one was, it was an actual, all 3 were gelled into each episode. You had to watch all 3 to actually get the full story for all 3 different shows. Totally. And I really liked how they gelled that all together.
Absolutely, because like you say, it was just all a matter of, okay, and I pretty much called it, but it was still fun seeing it, unfold. It's like the Med is going to have to figure out how to come up with some kind of vaccine. Obviously won't be that instant, but something to hold down the fort for now. Fire is going to do the investigation and find out that, hey, there's some chemicals that were used to create it, and then that's where PD comes in. Would they ever meet all in the middle of a town square? Hell no. It'd be all over the phone. It'd be less interesting. It'd be a multi-camera shot like X-Files or 24. Split screen.
We can suspend belief for that part of it.
And isn't it even freakier how this came out before COVID?
Yeah.
A year before COVID, this infection crossover came out. It freaked me out.
Well,
even more so.
quickly with New Amsterdam and The Resident, both of those two had super blue storylines that were coming out just as COVID hit. They hadn't planned it to time with COVID. It just happened to, be the storyline that they wanted to go with. And then they were like, yeah, we're going to pull our episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very true. And so, yeah, I'm like you, where I found some interest in Nurse April and Dr. Choi, but then the on again, off again thing drove me crazy. And then just instantly, I'm with you. Dr. Holstead is a total shithead. I cannot stand him. He's so arrogant and just likes to act like he's not being arrogant. That's even worse,
Yeah.
I dig Nurse April and how she had to hide her whole cancer scare while kind of trying to run the main nurse facility. Administrator Goodwin having to root out all the board and talk with the lawyers on what treatments. That's kind of what even reminded me more about the dark comedy bits of Chicago Hope. But I like Dr. Charles, and God, that man is just so unhappy. You remarry your estranged wife and then she gets lymphoma. It's like, God, that's not good. I am not caught up. I'm a little more further than you. I'm about to finish up season 5, but it looks like it's getting better, but I'm with you. Just the Manning and Halstead back and forth got old very fast. Like,
yeah,
there are plenty of episodes, and it also falls victim to, there are many episodes, like there's standalones on Fire and PD, but there's still something that is part of the serialized main storyline. And Med, that's my main issue with it. There was some serialization, but not as much, and it needed more of that. Like, it's way more interesting seeing the administrator trying play office politics and Dr. Charles try and get everyone in line, especially when he finds out like one of those doctors who he's mentoring's father is a serial killer. That was cool for me. But all that other shit that you mentioned before, where will they or won't they, is like, oh, Christ, enough.
I get enough with that on Grey's Anatomy. I don't need it on another show.
Oh, yeah. And I think they're just trying to steal some of those people from ER and Anatomy and New Amsterdam even, which is on the same network. But I couldn't get into The Resident, but I'm with you on New Amsterdam. That seems like it's more of a St. Elsewhere kind of show where everyone's just kind of having a come into Jesus moment, kind of, where they're just trying to figure out what's making themselves tick instead of, who.
Oh, I don't know. In New Amsterdam, I like how Max tries to fix everything and makes it all worse. And if you'd have actually just listened to the first person who gave him an idea in the first place, then he'd have fixed it all within a second.
Totally concur. He is an anti-House where he thinks he's smart, but really he's a Leroy Jenkins and he's just fucking it all up. But I also I will admit, I find Crockett, that Middle Eastern guy, Marcel, an interesting doctor, but I also don't understand him. I can't pick his brain. So I don't know if I get that it's an intentional quirkiness, but I also don't know what makes him tick. And I kind of would like a little more backstory. I know they added Steven Weber as Dr. Archer to this, from Wings. And I'm like, well, he kind of varies based on the show. So it'll be interesting seeing what his character is.
Yeah, I've not caught up enough for those characters. It's like I stopped watching around about season 2 or 3, and then I kept up with it through the written form. It's like, okay,
the crossovers.
People could just tell me what's going on, so I know who the new characters are. And then they wrote off Dr. Rhodes, and that was the moment I was just like, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm not even gonna
oh shit, I'm not even there yet, so I'm gonna brace for the deep hurting. Season 2 was a dog. you didn't need it at all. There was a bunch of skippable ones. Is like the beginning and ends were interesting. All that shit in between, didn't need it. And then season 3 got more interesting, but then it got so messy near the end. And so when it got to season 4 for me, I was like, okay, now this is more interesting. But still, there's some other shit in here because they will have some pretty cool, complex stuff, like, you know, like what every hospital show has, and which often is the best at, when they have a, you know, angry person taking a place hostage, you know, John Q style, and then someone even saying, I got to do this operation in private because I have, you know, very religious parents who will shun me if they know that I have a blood transfusion or whatever, you know. So that's always interesting. But I'm with you. Just the main storyline, oh boy, they better tell the main guys in charge, hey, soften it a little more. This needs a little more work, and I know you can do better.
Yeah, I mean, I catch the last 3 minutes of an episode when I'm getting ready to watch Chicago Fire, and then each week I'm just like, are you still on this storyline, or have we left this storyline and come back to it at another point, or are you just going around in circles and recycling stuff?
Yeah, I do kind of want Dick Wolf to actually step in and say, I've made enough money. Now we're in reruns mode. Wrap it up so we can, you know, syndicate it endlessly now.
I mean, the one that is catching my attention right now is Dr. Hammer's storyline, because I recognized Kristen Hager from Being Human.
Well, that's very true. They had a lot of cult sci-fi horror people on this show every once in a while. People from Broadway, and you're like, whoa, hey, whoa, that guy. I'm just waiting for someone from Hamilton or even House itself to just pop up.
But it's like I keep catching her storyline, and she has enough that makes me want to actually catch up with it, or maybe just check out season 7 right now.
At least see her.
That storyline.
Better yet, yeah, just wait for it to be on Peacock or Netflix a year from now, and you just
skim
through the storylines you like and omit the other shit. And you got to do it with every show. Even the best of the best shows have at least one episode which make you say, not watching that one again. You know, I'm going for all the Star Treks again, and I'm the same way, where it's like, that's going to be on the instant skip next time I do a playlist. You know?
Oh, I'm doing it with Supernatural, but I'm watching it with my kids, so I've got to sit through every single episode.
Totally.
And there's been a point where my 9-year-old has just gone, "What was that?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one of the bad episodes. That is like I think we got to Bugs, and she was like, "Do not tell me people actually liked that." It's like, no one liked that. Nobody.
Nope.
Even the writers don't like that.
Even the writers admitted they fucked up. That's when you know it's bad. So thank you ever so much for summing all these themes and characters and predicaments up, and kind of summing up even the TV addiction. You know.
Yeah.
So where can we find you on the web other than the FanSided and Precinct TV blog?
Yeah, so I'm on multiple FanSided sites: Precinct TV, Hidden Remote, Amazon Advisor. You can. I don't just cover entertainment. I also do lifestyle and blogging tips. So you can find me at Alexandria-Ingham.com and bloggingblissfully.com.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you ever so much for being on here, and we'd love to have you back.
Well, thank you for having me.
You just perfectly summed up how no matter your TV addiction, there's something that's there for everyone. And even when the shit does literally hit the fan in the writing or behind the scenes with actors getting big heads and saying, I quit, there's something that keeps it running.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you ever so much. I've got to go and get on another endless chat. So thank you ever. You rock this.
Oh, enjoy.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try?
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new podcast cure-all, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How did you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey. And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our queue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With the one-liner plot holes and gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy.
At eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zemenov. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zemenov, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zemenov, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zemenov.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The 2 lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VD Clinic Pod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VD Clinic Pod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
Hi there. It's Heather from the Watching Netflix Without You podcast. Did you know that there are over 1,200 Netflix original feature films and documentaries? And that number is only growing. So I've made it my mission to watch as many as I possibly can. Then, with a delightful guest or guests, disclaimer, more often than not my brother Ryan, we spend an episode rating, reviewing, and discussing a film at length. The first half of every episode is spoiler-free for those who haven't seen it yet, and in the second half, after a very clear spoiler warning, we dive into it. And that's really about it. You can listen to Watching Netflix Without You on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jack